Good morning. Welcome to Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalists. My name is Amy Evans, and I'm joined today by fellow members Barbara Munn and Pam Downs. Our congregation is served by the Reverend A.J. Van Tyne, who is available for pastoral care by phone or email. Reverend A.J. is in the virtual pulpit about 3 times a month. On Sundays, when he's off, we have guest ministers or members of the congregation will lead our service, like today. We often say on the worship committee, we are so lucky to have a deep bench of talented worship contributors. If you've ever had an idea for a reflection yourself or a service, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear it. We're also joined today by Patty Leftridge, our music director, and Adrian Dill, our director of religious education. And of course, we are joined by all of you. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the varied ways you move through and interact with the world, you are welcome here. With all the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life, you're welcome here. Whether you come feeling despair or hope for our world and its future, you are welcome here. No matter if you feel defeated or have had a recent victory in your efforts to make the world better, you are welcome here. And no matter how long you've been away or how soon you'll return, you're welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. I especially welcome newcomers today. Thank you for being with us. Now, I invite Pam Downs to begin our worship time together by leading us in lighting our chalices.
This is attributed to an unknown monk from the 12th century CE. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. How I found it was difficult to change the world, so I changed my nation. I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change my nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change my town. And as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realize the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on our town. Their impact could have changed the nation. And I could indeed have changed the world. And now, we invite you to join us in our opening hymn, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Today
Now it's our time for all ages. Good morning, Adrienne.
Good morning, Amy, and good morning, everyone else. Today, I wanted to return to the classics. Sometimes these really old folk tales that get told over and over again really contain a lot of wisdom that we need to remember and pay attention to. So I wanted to share an old story from an old book that's been around my house since I was a small child. The pages are so worn that they're hard to turn, but there's just that much wisdom in these stories. So this is a story called Little Tuppence, and it's a chain reaction story, which means one thing leads to another. And that I really like because it emphasizes the interconnectedness of the world that we live in. So this is Little Tuppence. Long, long ago, an old hen and her one little chicken went into the woods. The little chicken was named Tuppins. Scratch, scratch, they were busy all day among the leaves, finding seeds to eat. Do not eat the big seeds, said the old hen to the little Tuppins, for they will make you cough. But by and by, little Tuppence found a big seed and ate it. Then little Tuppence began to cough. The old hen was frightened at this, and she ran to the spring. She said, "Please, spring, give some water to me. Little Tuppence is coughing." The spring said, "Get me a cup, and then I will give you some water." The old hen ran to the oak tree, and she said, "Please, oak tree, give me a cup. Then the spring will give me some water. Little Tuppence is coughing." The oak tree said, "Shake me, and then I will give you a cup." The old hen ran to the little boy and said, "Please, little boy, shake the oak tree, and then the oak tree will give me a cup, and then the spring will give me some water, and because little Tuppence is coughing." The little boy said, "Give me some shoes. Then I can shake the oak tree for you." The old hen ran to the shoemaker and said, "Please, good shoemaker, give me some shoes for the little boy. Then the little boy will shake the oak tree, and the oak tree will give me a cup, and the spring will give me some water. Little Tuppence is coughing." The shoemaker said, "Get me some leather, and then I will make some shoes for the little boy." The old hen ran to the cow and said, "Please, cow, give me some leather. Then the shoemaker will make shoes for the little boy, and the little boy will shake the oak tree, and the oak tree will give me a cup, and the spring will give me some water. Little Tuppence is coughing." The cow said, "Get me some corn, and then I will give you some leather." The old hen ran to the farmer and said, "Please, farmer, give me some corn for the cow. Then the cow will give me some leather for the shoemaker, and the shoemaker will give me shoes for the little boy. The little boy will shake the oak tree. The oak tree will give me a cup. The spring will give me some water. Little Tuppence is coughing." And the farmer said, "Get me a plow, and then I can give you some corn." The old hen ran to the blacksmith and said, "Please, good blacksmith, get me a plow for the farmer. Then the farmer will give me some corn for the cow, and the cow will give me some leather for the shoemaker. The shoemaker will give me some shoes for the little boy, and the little boy will shake the oak tree, and the oak tree will give me a cup, and the spring will give me some water. Little Tuppence is coughing." The blacksmith said, "Get me some iron, and I can give you a plow." Then the old hen ran to the dwarfs and asked for some iron for the blacksmith. When she had told her story about little Tuppence to the dwarfs, they wanted to help too. They went into their cave and brought out some iron for the blacksmith, and the blacksmith made a plow for the farmer, and the farmer gave some corn for the cow, and the cow gave some leather for the shoemaker, and the shoemaker made some shoes for the little boy, and the little boy shook the oak tree, and the oak tree gave a little acorn cup, and the spring gave some water, and the old hen gave the water to little Tuppence, and little Tuppence stopped coughing. The end. And that is how we as a community come together to help one another.
That's a great story. Thank you, Adrienne. In this community of mutual care, we celebrate the great joys of life together and help share the burden of sorrows and grief. And as such, each week we share specific joys and sorrows from the lives of our members. If you have a joy or sorrow you'd like shared on Sunday, You can email joysandsorrows@mysfuu.org at any time. Please let us know what you'd like to be said. Today from Marcia von de Sonic, we have both a joy and a sorrow. It is with sadness that Marcia reports that Bill Ewald passed away recently. His wife reports that his family was with him when he passed. His bright smile and gentleness will be missed. Marcia's joy is her granddaughter Izzy is celebrating her 13th birthday. She is now officially a teenager, and a check for $13 has been donated to the SFUU birthday fund. If you haven't heard of that, it's an old tradition at SFUU where you give a special donation based on your age to the birthday fund. Jim Farris celebrates an intertwined couple of joys. He celebrated his 18th, don't you wish, Jim? His 85th birthday a few weeks ago. Happy birthday, Jim. But he's really pleased that for his brother's 90th birthday, his brother was able to visit with his daughter, his son, and their families in person for the first time in over a year. They are in Framingham, Massachusetts, and they got together near where Jim is incarcerated, or Jim's brother, that's his jocular term for the care facility. Jim was able to join them all via Zoom as well, so he really had a nice joy with that. If you have something that you haven't emailed but you'd like to share now, you can type it in the chat bar now for others to read. Now, would you be with me in a spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer? It has been another challenging week in our world. I want to invite us to start with some silence, time to reconnect with our breath and reground ourselves. This week brought many assaults in the political arena on values that we hold dear. May this time of meditation be an opportunity to find peace within ourselves, to tap new springs of courage, resolve, and hope. We know that none of us alone can hold all that must be held or do all that must be done, but may each of us be led toward that work, which is ours to do. As a community, may we feel our strength together and use it for good as best we can. In this spirit, we name our concern for this land and for its people, and for the people of the world, for victims of gun violence and their family. May they find peace throughout their journeys of grief. May they feel the love that surrounds them. We pray for all immigrants who fear for their safety and the safety of their families and loved ones. May they be well and safe. May all who are moved to action in these times be clear and strong and compassionate in our response. For our planet and the ongoing climate crisis, we pray for effective and creative action. May all those who are moved to action be clear and strong in their response. And let us take a moment to give thanks for the blessings that are emerging, for the journalists and scientists, attorneys, public servants, and so many others who are offering truth and wisdom. We give thanks. For ordinary people, including you and me, who are rising to the occasion and bringing the best that is in us as best we can, we give thanks. Blessed be. I invite you to continue in the spirit of reflection, meditation, and prayer as we hear hymn 398, To See the World in a Grain of Sand. I'd like to welcome our member Pam Downs to share her reflection with us this morning. Welcome, Pam.
Hello and happy spring morning here today. When I first heard the title of today's service, To See the World in a Grain of Sand, I just let that roll around in my brain for a time. And I found myself considering what it was to be a grain of sand, to be part of something larger, and to see yourself as a necessary part of the world, yet only a part, small and large at the same time. It brought to my mind the Tibetan sand paintings, beautiful but ephemeral, lovingly and purposefully created, but when they were finished, to be uncreated. And for those of you that are not familiar with Tibetan sand paintings, you could quick Google Tibetan sand paintings images, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, those grains of sand could not know the patterns they were making and what magic or healing they were part of. Like a number of congregants here at SFUU, I'm a teacher, and I'm still slogging away on Zoom every day. And sometimes I feel like an apparition of a teacher, a ghost teacher. I know on an intellectual level that I'm a very small part of what has kept the educational system going, but it has been often really hard to remember on a workaday, in a workaday world. Now, many of our friends here at SFUU teach young folks, children, tweens, and teens, and it's clear that those teachers' impact goes beyond their curriculum. Every time they model love, patience, or exhibit courage or character, they're adding color to dozens of sand paintings, yet cannot know how their simple classroom actions could help someone years later weather life storms, or even years later than that, those same students' grandchildren's worldview. Now, I teach adults, mostly young adults at the community college level. And switching metaphors here, that cake is mostly baked by the time they reach me. I just add some colorful icing. And yet, when I was thinking back to my junior college days for this reflection, I know that I learned life lessons from those instructors who probably thought it was just another day of presenting their lesson plans. I know I learned a little, or maybe more than a little, about breaking rules in a good way from a geology teacher. And I probably modeled that behavior to my students as well. From a biology teacher, I learned to say an enthusiastic yes to my subject matter without caring one bit if one was cool or not, as I was amazed at his passion for biosynthetic pathways. And in my area of theater, I was given so much by my drama teacher, dear Bonnie Cogbill, who's still knocking around Laguna Beach, having fun, I hope, who took a cheerleader seriously. And I remember once in a class where I was attempting as a 19-year-old kid to do a scene from a Greek tragedy. And I remember looking out and seeing her crying in the audience. Now, maybe it was because I was so terrible, but I don't think so. I think it was because maybe she knew for a moment that she was part of who I was going to be. Grains of sand making a picture, know not what they do. One of my personal struggles is that I have often wanted to be an extraordinary grain of sand and defy the transitory nature of sand paintings. Ego. But I have learned and sometimes remember that lesson, that it is not the sand's job to be appreciated by the beholder. That kind of concern can get in the way of creativity and truthful art. And I'll share with you that when I was an actor, I used to, before a show, I would find some private place and pray. And my prayer was always the same. Let me be an instrument of truth. And it was my attempt to take my rightful place as a grain of sand, along with the crew and the cast and the playwright and the audience in that night's momentary ephemeral painting. And I know for certain that everyday virtues can change the fabric of other people's lives. I know that because of my son, Andy. He left this world 13 years ago when he was 24. And he never achieved any great success, though he did make Eagle Scout by the skin of his teeth, which was kind of a big deal. But as his teacher upon occasion in college, he was a terrible student. He never knew what time it was and was rarely where he was supposed to be for work or for classes. But he did have his priorities right, in that he placed people first and loved them fiercely and always let them know that and know why. And to this day, people contact me or I hear of how, after all this time, small things he did changed their lives for the better or changed their trajectory. And a few months ago, the second child was born that was named for him, a brand new sand painting. So during the last year, I have struggled with feeling like a ghost teacher and sometimes not even feeling real because there was no one to hug or to make real eye contact with. But thanks in part to the positive and loving messages every Sunday here, I've been able to continue to strive to bring passion and spontaneity to my work and to my relationships. On Friday, I had a whole group of students stay after class. This is after a lecture class, just to chat like we would have done during an office hour on campus. And not necessarily about the subject matter, they just wanted to chat. And in my large film classes, the students have come to start greeting each other in the chat feature and saying goodbye to each other at the end of the Zoom chat. And they're organizing together to watch movies on their own together and discussing them. Now, that's something that happened very rarely in face-to-face classes before the pandemic. So interesting, yes? So the future and the world to this grain of sand is seeming a little brighter. And I look forward to making more beautiful pictures with my fellow travelers on this blue boat here at SFUU and abroad in the world. Thank you.
I share this story sometimes when I'm feeling brave about a night at a friend's house. A night of good food, a few beers, and a hilarious game of Wii bowling. My friend's boyfriend's son was with us that night. I'll call him Dylan. He's gay, but at the time he wasn't out to his conservative father, although my girlfriend had had conversations with him about her unconditional love for him. While playing the Wii game, I had told everyone that if they got a strike, you know, when you knock down all the pins on a single toss, you have to jump up in the air and throw your arms and legs apart to imitate an X, which is the bowling symbol for a strike. We all looked completely silly doing it and we were laughing really hard. Dylan's jump had a special flair to it. It was hilarious. About an hour into the game, my friend's next door neighbor came barging through the front door, clearly intoxicated. He was jumping from one story to another when he started talking about a gay bar he had somehow ended up in. As he disparaged gays, my husband and I sat in silent horror. No one joined in on this gay bashing, but no one said anything either. We left pretty quickly after that, but my husband and I felt deep shame and regret for months about not saying anything. We even sought counsel from our ministers at the time for advice on how to find that courage the next time. So I found this sermon excerpt from the Reverend Joshua Pollack, and it really spoke to me. It spoke to me about how we can make a difference in the world or in a person's life by speaking up. So someone is speaking. It could be anyone, a spouse, a coworker, boss, friend, another member of the congregation, total stranger. It could be just the two of you, or you could be in a larger group. The speaker makes a statement you disagree with, or they behave in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. For some reason, you remain silent. Your disagreement remains unspoken. Your discomfort remains unnamed. Later, you think about what you might have said, how you could have been more forthcoming, more courageous. You know exactly what you should have done in the moment, but that moment is gone. Sound familiar? This is what the poet Marge Piercy calls unlearning to not speak. It's about finding our voices, and not simply finding our voices, but using them to speak our truths. Believing that when our voices remain hidden and our truths go unspoken, the quality of our lives and the quality of our relationships suffer. And trusting that when our voices actually speak, when our mouths, or in some cases our hands, form the words we long to say in that moment, when our truths issue forth from us, as difficult and challenging as that might be, we give ourselves and those around us the opportunity to grow stronger, more vibrant, more spiritual and spirited, more attentive, more compassionate, more honest, more wise. There are three aspects of unlearning to not speak. First, the long, slow process, the challenging life work, and the spiritual imperative of finding our voice, of learning and loving who we are, and having the confidence and even the desire to contribute who we are to others and to the life of the community. Second, this is a big one, the challenge of the present moment. How do we find our voice in that instant when our values are at stake? When we know we ought to speak, but it feels safer to remain silent. And third, it's the conflict. The stronger our voice, the more distinct and vivid our voice, the greater the possibility others will disagree with us. How do we ensure others don't remain silent in the midst of our truth? All this is relevant to the life of a healthy congregation. How do we live with and even invite a healthy level of discourse, dissonance, and difference? How do we conduct courageous conversations? We each have a voice, an essence, a center, a foundation that is precious and sacred. We access it differently. Some of us go there with ease, some of us with great difficulty. Some of us feel welcome there, some of us feel unwelcome, in part because the journey there can feel dangerous. It's a place where on our best days, in our best moments, mind, body, and spirit are one. Our voice speaks from this place. There is something primal, instinctive, and childlike about our voices. Young children speak with it, at least in its raw form. As infants and children, we possess it. Yet we somehow grow more distant from it in our adolescence and adulthood. Children express that kind of wisdom with their lives, though we adults don't always have the patience for it. Many great spiritual thinkers have reflected on the wisdom at the heart of children's lives. Children are often much closer to the heart than adults. They don't need to find their voice because they're already speaking with it. But the goal is not to return to our childhood voice. The goal is to locate the creativity, spontaneity, and playfulness that lived with us as children, and mingle it with our adult knowledge and skills. Meld it with our adult ability to analyze a situation, to discern justice and injustice. The goal is to dig deep and recognize that somewhere in this mix is your heart. Somewhere in this mix is your voice. Listen. Slowly learn your voice. Practice. Your words may be new and strange sounding. It takes time to get them right, so give it time. They will come. Practice, practice, practice. Let us celebrate courageous conversations.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice. My parents turned 92 this year, and I've been asking myself whether I will be able to say when I am 90 that I led a good life, that the world was better because I was in it. Beyond care for my family, friends, and myself, how do I go about making a difference when there are so many social, economic, political, and environmental issues that need attention? I don't know about you, but my inboxes are overflowing with causes asking for support. And there are just so many of them that I end up just hitting the delete button without opening. Or in the case of my physical mail, ripping those letters in half and recycling without reading. How is it possible to avoid getting overwhelmed by all of this need, especially when you are only one voice? The need in our world is not a news story. This morning's pastoral hymn used the first 4 lines of a poem written by William Blake nearly 200 years ago. These lines conjure the innocence of a child experiencing the world for the first time, where everything is new, and even the mundane evokes wonder. To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. In the full poem, which is called Auguries of Innocence, Blake immediately pivots from images of wonder to those of despair, enumerating the effects of humans on the world with hypnotic rhythm. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dog starved at the master's gate predicts the ruin of the state. A horse misused upon the road calls to heaven for human blood. Each outcry of the hunted hare a fiber from the brain does tear. A skylark wounded in the wing, a cherubim does cease to sing. As we grow older, it is hard not to become dispirited by negative experiences or by what we see on the news. Slowly, the wonder we knew as a child evaporates, and we become numbed to the injustices that happen every day. So, what can we do to try to make changes in the world when we are overwhelmed, discouraged, or feeling helpless? Here are a few guidelines that have helped me. Not that I've done anything big, just a few, just doing my part. Firstly, figure out what matters to you. What matters most to you. Make a choice. Accept that you can't do everything. This is the sound of one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. I've latched on to climate change and more recently, voting rights. What issues speak to you? Don't try to do it all. Make a choice. Secondly, find others to partner with or let them find you. This is the sound of voices too, helping each other to make it through. If you haven't realized it already, this church and this Unitarian Universalist faith is full of people to partner with. I didn't have to invent a framework for working on climate change. It was already there in the form of the UUA's Green Sanctuary Program and the UU Ministry for the Earth. I didn't have to invent a framework for working on voting rights. It was already there in the form of the UU Justice Ministry of California and UU The Vote. Let people at SFUU know who you are and what matters to you. And believe me, they will find a cause for you to work on if you let them. In my case, someone knew of my geology background and environmental bent, and so asked me to join a group working on the Green Sanctuary reaccreditation at SFUU. That partnership led to the many educational, spiritual, and service programs that the Green Team brought to you surrounding climate change about 2 years ago, and also environmental justice. That activism lives on in SFUU's newly hatched Mission Earth program, born through a partnership with Tom Piette, Carol Kuntz, Janet Russell, and Paul Boisvert. From that came new partnerships with many of you surrounding a movement to recognize the social, environmental, and health hazards of plastics and to slowly try to wean ourselves from plastic use. Do environmental causes speak to you? Let Mission Earth find you. Is there some other issue that beats true for you? I bet there is someone here at SFUU to partner with. As Stevie said in her reflection last week, even though our commitment is individual, it is powerful to have a community for reinforcement. Thirdly, play to your strengths and find the strengths of others. This is the sound of voices 3, singing together in harmony. Allowing everyone to bring their strengths to a partnership is like singing in harmony. The whole combined is so much better than the individual parts alone. So, when you join a group, be sure to be an active member. Offer up your strengths and draw on the strengths of your partners. Finally, make it simple and doable within your own means. Then let it build. Don't expect to make big changes all at once. Take one step at a time and pass that passion to your family, to your friends, to everyone around you. This is the sound of all of us singing with love and the will to trust. As a geologist, today's service's grain of sand metaphor particularly appealed to me. Through their textures and compositions, I see Pam laughing. Through their textures and compositions, every single grain of sand on a beach has a story to tell of where it came from and how it got there, how it got down there to the beach. It is the combined textures and compositions of the sand that gives the beach its character. It is the sound of all of us. The sand is the beach, and every grain does matter. As waves roll back and forth, the sand grains jostle each other, bumping along, pushing each other down the beach. In this way, once put in motion, a single grain influences all the other grains around it. Just like the waves move a grain of sand, you can be moved by a cause to take some small action that has a ripple effect on those around you, which may in turn take you somewhere unexpected. Here's some very much like the story of the old hen, Tuppins. Here's just one example of such ripples from my life. In 2018, moved by concern about climate change, I joined the effort to get SFUU reaccredited as a green sanctuary. Ripple number 1. In partnership with the Green Team, we brainstormed project ideas. Ripple number 2. One of those projects was Simplicity Circles. So I partnered with Jan Lowry to offer Simplicity Circles to the church. Ripple number 3. In my own Simplicity Circle, we discussed how you can work on all that clutter in your mind through meditation. And Meg Dorsey mentioned that she was attending Jim Robison's weekly meditation sessions. Ripple number 4. I give these meditation sessions a try. And it just so happens that Rocky Whitson goes to one of these. Afterwards, in passing, he recommends looking into Vote Forward, a nationwide campaign to write Get Out the Vote letters to low propensity voters in swing states. Ripple number 5. Mary Piette tells me about a training session that she and Tom did with Rocky and Indivisible Auburn about Vote Forward. Ripple number 6, Carol Kuntz, Trish Kaspers, and I decide to bring Vote Forward to SFUU under the UU the Vote, under the UU the Vote umbrella. Ripple number 7. We organized monthly UU the Vote meetings at SFUU, and many of you joined us, writing 5, 10, and 20 letters at a time for Vote Forward. There are a multitude of other ripples after that, including advertising on the UUA website so that we influenced UUs from Virginia, New York, and Florida to also write Vote Forward letters. Although each person in the Vote Forward Big Send campaign may have only written 20 letters by themselves, the combination, the total of so many letter writers across the country led to more than 17 million letters being sent to voters, explaining why we vote and asking them to vote too. Just think about all those grain of sands influencing each other through the US mail. I can't help but feel that this effort made a difference in the 2020 election. Together, we are powerful. That is the sound of all of us. Even if we don't get the results that we were hoping for, it is still worth the effort. We can't make a difference unless we try. I urge you to consider what matters to you, to partner with someone, to make some ripples as you move sand down the beach. I'd like to close with a reading by Dorothy Day, which is called Commitment. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Even each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has the right to sit down and feel helpless or hopeless. There's too much work to be done. Thank you. Please join in singing our closing hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need to reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes.
It is often said that the offering is the sacrament of the free church. That is to say, everything this congregation is and has is only what we bring to it, our time, our talents, and our treasures. In person, this is embodied by the powerful ritual of literally passing the plate and chipping in. With our online services, however, we ask that you contribute to our collection after the service by going to our website or using the Text to Give app. As part of our ethic of generosity, we also split our monthly collection with a local community organization aligned with our values. This month, the Share the Plate recipient is NorCal Resist, a community-based activist organization that offers a variety of services to asylum-seeking and undocumented persons. Its mission is to build infrastructure against oppression and empower our communities through shared resources and support. Thank you for your generosity.
These words of benediction are from Eric William. Blessed is the path. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace. Please join me in our closing words as we extinguish the chalice. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Blessed be.